Hi there. This is Ollie Snyder, week 5. I'm doing an article today on John the Jews and Philosophy by Harold W. Atridge. And Harold begins by confessing that the term the Jews is multifaceted. He quotes several, including Cornelius Benema, and of whom he says, or he quotes him saying, the Jews are a particular religious group of Torah and temple loyalists, found especially, not exclusively, in Judea. They're also a composite group with the chief priests or temple authorities as the core or in leadership, and as the Pharisees as influential laity. And as portrayed in the Gospels, some people in this large group reacted positively to Jesus, and others, including the leadership, rejected him. As Benema also insists, many of these people believed in Jesus. And so I loved that he did not just point out the few who were against him, but he said it as it was. There were some who liked him, there were some who didn't. There were some who opposed him, there were some who did not. And this was just a very much more of what John is trying to say, and a more balanced approach to recalling the gospel. When I compare it to some of the other commentaries that I've read, when the term Jews was very negatively used based on a few verses, and then it just kind of encompassed all the Jews as if that were the case. But here, Atridge does not do that, so I appreciate that. The interesting thing that I found here is that he speaks about the believing Jews were mainly covered in the first half of John's gospel. And he says that the Pharisees silenced them in John 12:42, and that they're absent after. Now, of course, Jesus deals with a lot of believing Jews after, including the disciples, but I believe he's referencing more Jews coming to faith after that. And so I'd love to study this and know your thoughts on this. Now, 12:42 says, nevertheless, many, even if the rulers, believed in him, but because of the Pharisees, they were not confessing him, for fear that they would be put out of the synagogue. And then the following verse in 43, they said, for they love the approval of men rather than approval of God. So Harold says that from this verse on, the believing Jews, or the recollection of believing Jews, was silenced. So opposing Jews probably stand in some relationship with those who have been involved or who threaten to be involved in the expulsion of Jesus' disciples from synagogues. Harold says that his goal is to explore the possibility that something more than ethnic or social identity is involved in this extra-textual reference, and that the symbolic value of the Jews has something to do with the fact that the believing members of that group are not much in evidence in the second half of the gospel. So when we start looking into this, and he's quoting many stories of, for example, of Lazarus' report, obviously not being the first report, Nicodemus' report, lists that the understanding was that one knows what is right by understanding and basic truth and acting on it. And so the believers understood a basic truth, that Jesus was the Messiah, he was the Son of God, he was who he said he was, and they acted upon it. And then there comes this kind of a cut in his article, and he talks about this irony. This is when the leader said, if we let him continue, the signs will have the effect just manifested among the Jews. People will believe, and then the Romans will come, and they will obliterate our place. From the point of view of the evangelist, all of this happened not because people believed in Jesus, but because they did not so. And then comes this idea that all of this had to do with God's timing. And it's as if God placed Caiaphas, the high priest, in place at this time, and to utter the famous, "It's beneficial for you that one man die for the people, so that the whole nation may not perish." From that declaration on, then the Jews planned to put him to death. And there's many instances before when they tried this, but they were never successful, or it was always just they tried for a little bit and then just kind of gave up or went another way or forgot about it, what have you. From this point on, it was almost like an all-out hunt until we get this done. Like, this is our mission from this point on. So, although some of the opponents among the Jews have been working to eliminate Jesus before chapter 11, the effort is now sanctioned by the highest authority, and the believing Jews begin to fall silent. So in John 11:53, from that day on, they plotted to kill them. And as Harold says, it reminds us that there's a conceptual point to be made in the gospel. The key to right action is right reasoning. So many Jewish sages and rabbis wrestled with the issue whether one for many was morally justifiable. Many, but not all of their Jewish friends and neighbors, or distant friends and neighbors, did not accept their claims about Jesus. So, can we confirm or deny that from Caiaphas's prophetic words in John 11:53, there was less and less evidence in believing of believing Jews? Because this is what I'm feeling is the core of the article. Overall, even as I'm recalling what I've read just now, there's many variations, many points I think that Attridge is trying to make. There's many different avenues he's going down, and I'm trying to pull the gist, or I'm trying to pull the focus of this story. Now, even though he says that he's trying to write this as, again, he said he'll explore the possibility something more than the ethnic group or social identity is involved in this reference, and the evidence is not there in the second part of the gospel. So I see that maybe he's using a lot of his points to build on to this idea, but there's just not enough evidence. He has a lot of good ideas that none of them seem to develop in this article. And this one, out of all of them that I've just kind of gone through and read to you, this one's probably the one that stuck out to me the most, because I've never noticed this before, and it was a new idea for me that there was a time and place where, and this is just how I'm reading into this. As I said, there was just a lot of I guess winds that were blowing through this paper, and it was hard for me to concentrate onto what the main point was and how he went about developing this, because there's many great ideas in the paper. So I took this one out and tried to think on it myself, and I'd like to know your opinions and your thoughts on it as well. And that's that, what if in this time God placed the high priest for such a time as this, but in a way to make way for Jesus to go to the cross, that it was God who created these events in order that the high priest would speak out these words, would bring about this prophecy by the creative power of these words, that it is beneficial for everyone, for the whole world, that one man will die for the people, and not that the whole nation shall perish. So instead of all of Israel perishing, because if they let him live, then the Romans will come and they will take over. Um, the the Lord had placed the high priest there, not not in opposition to God's plan, but in order to fulfill God's plan. So there's just a lot of thoughts and ideas that I'm getting through this. As Harold said, I read earlier. So in the ironic statement that as evangelists in this, modern Christianity, we think that all of this happened because some people believed in Jesus, and so the Pharisees were after those who believed on his name. But what Harold is trying to say is all of these things happened because people did not believe in Jesus. Because there was a lot who did not believe him when he came to preach, when he came to teach, when he came to show God in flesh to his own. Because many did not believe, this is why God just put this pause upon his people, and the high priest who had the authority to speak out those words did, and just basically spoke them out and begun this event where less and less Jewish people were confessing that they knew him and confessing their belief in him, or maybe even less and less were coming to faith in him starting from this point on. It's almost like this time of ears closed and eyes shut has been set in place from Caiaphas's words to a point in time, whether that was at the resurrection, at on the day of Pentecost, maybe it will be fulfilled on Yom Kippur, when Jesus comes back the second time and fulfills the last feast, the in the end of days after the Feast of Sukkot. I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, and let's talk a little more about it in the discussion boards and see if we can better understand this passage. Thank you. I'll talk to you on the discussion board soon. Bye.